Welcome, friend. I'm Jack, host of the channel, and today we're diving into another episode. Pour yourself a drink and get comfortable, because I've got a powerful story coming your way. If something hits deep, drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get into it.
Fueled by anger and a thirst for vengeance, I plotted the perfect retribution. The night the yacht went up in flames was the night everything changed for me. The Johnsons believed they were beyond reach, but I proved them wrong. This is more than a story of infidelity. It's a saga of betrayal, revenge, and a man's quest to reclaim his dignity. That weekend, I avoided going home. I chose to stay at the Riverside Inn, spending my days buried in work at the office. I felt like I had nowhere else to be, and the deserted office building allowed me to avoid any interaction. In my own way, I was starting to adjust. It gave me space to stay calm and reflect. Late Saturday, while sorting through neglected files, the office phone startled me. I answered without much thought. "Are you there?" Jessica's voice came through quickly. "Yes, I am here," I responded, exhaling deeply. I wasn't sad, just unexpectedly calm. "Daniel," she hesitated, "I will be in your building's lobby in 20 minutes. Please, meet me there." "All right, but why?" I questioned. "Just be there, please," she implored, then hung up abruptly. I glanced at myself in the restroom mirror. I hadn't shaved in 3 days. My hair was overgrown, and I had lost weight. I sat alone in the sleek lobby of the Midtown office tower. It was just me and the security guard that Saturday evening. We both looked up when the doors swung open, the sound of high heels clicking on marble filling the air. I saw Jessica approaching. Turning to the guard, I said, "Tony, I will handle this visitor myself, all right?" "No worries, Daniel," he replied. "Is she another lawyer like you?" "She certainly has that look." "Yes, she is an attorney, but she does not practice public defense. She works at a large firm." Meeting Jessica halfway across the lobby, I guided her to the elevator. She appeared exhausted and nervous. She was dressed in jeans with a thick winter coat, her hands buried deep in the pockets. We remained silent as the old elevator creaked its way up to my floor. Inside my office, Jessica finally shrugged off her coat and sank into the worn chair opposite my green metal desk. I waited for her to speak. "You will be pleased to know I have my rings back," she announced, showing her left hand. I was taken aback and confused. Did this mean she had rifled through our wedding pictures and found them? I wasn't sure, because if she had, she would have discovered the plane ticket to Los Angeles I had left there. Her demeanor did not match what I expected if she knew about my trip to Los Angeles for the reunion. "Where did you find them?" I asked, trying to seem genuinely happy. "Martha had them all along. I asked her to hold on to them while I was on the boat trip," she explained. I knew she was lying. She wasn't on the crowded tourist boat with others. She was on the private yacht, Seduction, with Andrew and Tom. She hadn't given the rings to Martha. She had left them in the yacht's cabin. "So maybe you can wear your ring again," she continued. "Return to little Tommy and me. Love me, and we can rebuild our family." I feigned agreement, reaching under my shirt to reveal my wedding ring hanging on a leather string. I pretended to consider putting it back on, but paused and asked, "Can I see your rings?" Jessica hesitated, but eventually extended her hand. I examined them closely. "These aren't real," I declared. Jessica swiftly withdrew her hand. "What are you saying, Daniel?" she exclaimed, shocked. "They are not fake. They are replicas," I replied. "Why would Martha give you duplicate rings? Were the originals very expensive? Is the wedding band engraved with our initials and the date of our wedding?" Jessica turned away, attempting to conceal something. She quickly retorted, "They are mine. Why would you think otherwise?" "I am not certain, Jessica. I just know these are not the original rings you had. Why would Martha deceive you? Or are you the one deceiving me? But why?" Tears welled up in Jessica's eyes as she shot back. "How could you know this? How can you even say such a thing? I just want you back. Why does it matter so much to you that I lost my rings?" Jessica failed to connect my anger to her affair with Andrew. She thought I couldn't possibly know what she did from the time she left on Thursday until her return to Chicago on Saturday. In her mind, my anger couldn't be related to her actions. During the month apart, I had ample time to think clearly, distanced from the initial rage. I was still deeply hurt. The knowledge that my wife had been with another man filled me with shame. I was embarrassed knowing that some people were aware of what happened. My trust in Jessica was shattered, not only because of her affair with Andrew, but because of her continued lies. I missed my son terribly. My world revolved around him, and losing Jessica didn't mean I had to lose Tommy, too. I also realized I didn't want to remain mired in pain, and living alone was not a sustainable solution. I observed Jessica for a while, then said, "I am going to move back home. I miss my son." I refrained from saying I missed Jessica, even though a part of me did. "I will sleep in the guest room for now," I added. This decision seemed to bring a bit of relief to Jessica. Maybe she thought it was a step toward normalizing our relationship as husband and wife. "I will come back home Monday night," I informed her. "See you then." To signal the end of our conversation, I mentioned that I had to return to work. Jessica understood and prepared to leave. "I am glad you are coming back where you belong," she said. She moved closer as if anticipating a hug or a kiss, but I stepped back. "You have not touched me since I returned from the reunion," she said, tears forming in her eyes. She left my office, seemingly unable to connect my coldness to her infidelity. Perhaps it was her way of protecting herself, being in denial, or just continuing her deceit. Monday night, I moved back home. I set up in the guest room. Jessica avoided me when I needed to access the main bedroom for clothes or the bathroom. Most of my time outside work was spent with my son, Tommy, around him. Jessica and I maintained a facade of normalcy. We spoke kindly to each other, though there was no physical contact. When Tommy wasn't around, or after he went to bed, my demeanor toward Jessica remained cold, often silent. My anger had cooled to a simmer. I wasn't as bitter or cutting in my words as I had been at the height of my fury. 3 weeks passed since our talk in the office. I was present for my son, but emotionally absent for Jessica. I had taken up residence in the spare room, devoting most of my time to Tommy. I had always known he was a wonderful child, but the past few weeks reinforced this. Jessica and I had reached a tenuous truce. We managed to coexist. She kept her distance when I needed to use our shared spaces, and I ensured her workspace was orderly during the day. We were getting by, or at least I was. Jessica appeared to have lost weight, and her usual sparkle was gone. But I was enjoying my time with our son. One day, Jessica broke the silence. "Martha called me yesterday." "Good old Martha," I replied with a hint of sarcasm. "Did you give her a piece of your mind?" "No, Daniel. Why should I? She wants me to visit her in Atlanta." "That is better than her coming here to Chicago, because I have no interest in seeing her," I said. "She asked to see me, Daniel, not us." I wanted to make a snide remark about Martha leading Jessica into trouble, but I held my tongue. "I want to go see her." This time, I could not stay silent. "To reminisce about the good old days in Los Angeles," I said, my voice heavy with sarcasm. I was pushing her away, unable to stop myself. The pain from her betrayal was too deep. "She might bring it up, but I really need to talk to her about us, Daniel. She is my best friend, but I will not mention anything if you do not want me to." Her question caught me off guard. "Go if you think it will help," I finally said, "but I doubt it will. I do not think you know Martha as well as you think." We spent the following week in an uneasy peace, trying to maintain a semblance of stability for Tommy. I knew what I had to do. I had to find a way to rebuild my self-respect. I still loved Jessica deeply, but I couldn't stay with someone who had been unfaithful. A month after her trip, I was cleaning up after dinner in the kitchen. Our routine was that Jessica would cook, and I would clean up. I was drying a glass when I heard a soft sob from the living room. I entered to find Jessica on the couch, holding our wedding album. She lifted her rings and my plane ticket. "You knew," she said through tears. "You knew the whole time." She was visibly shaken, crying uncontrollably. She saw me and hid her face. "Do not look at me," she pleaded. I sat across from her and said, "I know everything, Jessica. I was there. I saw it all." "I tried to forget," she said between sobs. "I wished it had never happened." "Maybe you did," I replied, "but not me. I see it over and over again in my mind. I even took photos." "Photos?" she gasped. "You took photos?" "Yes, on my phone." "No, no, no," Jessica cried. "I have to see them," she demanded. "Are you sure?" I asked. "They are explicit, but you already know what happened?" Jessica nodded. "I need to know what you saw." I retrieved my phone, opened the photos, and showed her the night of the party. "They start here," I said, handing her the phone. Jessica looked through the images, which depicted everything from the yacht's arrival to the moment she allowed Andrew into her cabin. She viewed them all. Some were blurry, but they clearly indicated I had witnessed everything. Jessica dropped the phone beside her and broke down into tears. "I am so sorry, Daniel. If I could undo it, I would," she sobbed. "But you cannot, can you?" I said, my voice flat. "You have caused me deep pain, haven't you? You were with two men you know I despise." Jessica seemed confused at first. "What do you mean, two men?" she asked, still crying. "You were with both Andrew and Tom that night, weren't you?" I stated plainly. "What are you talking about?" Jessica said, tears streaming down her face. "Let me explain. Jessica," I began, "I saw from a distance when you returned from the sailing trip on the Johnson yacht. I was shocked to see you without a top, and Andrew Johnson holding you as if it were nothing. Immediately, I wondered what you might do if you thought I was not around, so I kept my distance to observe. At the party, I watched you dance closely with Andrew. Later, I saw you allow Andrew to touch you in the pool, and much later, I saw Andrew escort you to your cabin. The thing that truly crushed me was watching you let Andrew into your room. That sight destroyed me. Consumed with rage, I approached your door, furious at both of you. As I drew nearer, I picked up a large rock, prepared to break down the door and attack Andrew. I did not just want to hurt him a little. I wanted to end him, and I even considered harming you. The only thing that might have stopped me was the thought of Andrew fighting back, but in that moment, I didn't care. I got within 10 feet of your door and paused. For some reason, I thought of little Tommy. I considered the consequences. What if I barged into your room, found you about to sleep with Andrew, and you told me to leave, saying we would discuss it later? That would have driven me mad. What if Andrew was so determined to be with you that he beat me up and threw me out? Then I would be compelled to retaliate against both of you, without a doubt. What if Andrew simply left when he saw me? Then I would be left with a wife who would have cheated if I hadn't intervened. What then? Cry, beg for forgiveness, promise it would never happen again. Either way, I would be stuck with a wife I could never trust again. It was a no-win scenario, regardless of the outcome. What if I had stormed in and severely injured Andrew as I wanted to? Tommy would grow up without his father, branded as a killer. If Andrew had hurt me instead, Tommy might have grown up with his mother and a stepfather named Andrew, an intolerable thought. If I had harmed both Andrew and you, Tommy would end up with one of his grandparents. None of these options seemed right. Walking away was the only choice I saw, to leave and figure things out later, whatever those things might be. Jessica finally met my gaze. "What are you going to do?" she asked. Tears welled up in my eyes as I said, "I want a divorce." Jessica cried out, "No, no, no! This is not how it was supposed to end. You were never supposed to find out." "I have no other choice," I replied. "You chose my worst enemies over me, then lied repeatedly. You never once thought to tell me the truth so we might work through it together. You lied and lied. I cannot trust you. You showed no respect for me or the vows we took." Jessica wept uncontrollably. "Can you not forgive me and let us go back to how we were? Can you not give me one more chance?" she pleaded. Holding back my tears, I spoke. "I gave you a chance, but you continued to lie. I cannot pretend this never happened. My self-respect and dignity won't allow it. You would not respect me if I did. I would always be seen as weak, by you, by myself, and by everyone we know. My pride prevents me, no matter how much I love you. Even though I do love you, I cannot touch you knowing you have been with Andrew or Tom. I cannot be intimate with you. I cannot kiss you, knowing where your lips have been. Jessica caught on to something in my words. What do you mean by Andrew and Tom? She asked, still crying. You do not even know the half of it. Did you not realize that both Andrew and Tom were with you that night? I responded. I do not understand. I was only with Andrew the entire night. How many times did it happen? I asked harshly. Please, Daniel, I do not want to discuss this. I have been trying to erase that night from my memory. How many times did Andrew finish? I persisted with the difficult questions. Please, Daniel, she begged. I did not even want you to find out anything happened, so I certainly do not want to delve into the specifics of how many times or how long I was with Andrew. To be honest, I do not remember much. I was very drunk, high, and exhausted. I looked at Jessica. No wonder you believed it was an incredible night. You must have experienced it at least 6 times. How close am I to the truth? Jessica continued crying as I speculated about her night with Andrew. I am so deeply sorry, Daniel. Reflecting on it, everything that day seemed to lead to that moment. I just let it all happen. I never wanted you to find out. I have hurt you so much, and I can see that. You know I love you, and I know you love me and our son with all your heart. We must get through this. We simply must. Here is what truly happened, Jessica, I said, raising my hand to quiet her. After abandoning the idea of breaking into your room to attack Andrew and possibly you, I put down the rock. I needed time to cool down, so I walked along the beach for a while. During that time, I decided to return to Chicago and keep it to myself that I had been there and witnessed what I saw. I planned to catch the first flight back. As I was making my way back to my spot around 3 in the morning, I glanced through the palm trees at your room. A man stood by your door. At first, I thought it was Andrew taking a break or something. Then I saw the real Andrew open the door and step out to meet his brother, Tom. They chatted briefly, swapped shirts, and Tom, now wearing Andrew's clothes, went into your room while Andrew headed off to his own. So, the reason your night was so wild was because you were with both Andrew and Tom Johnson. No, 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 Jessica cried out. I had no idea. How could they do this to me? By the letter of the law, Tom committed a serious crime against you, I said. You did not consent to him, but that is just a part of what transpired. Jessica rocked back and forth, sobbing and repeating, I did not know, I did not know. It does not matter to me whether you were with Andrew or both, I continued. What troubles me is that you cheated at all. You made it seem so easy, like it was just something people do when their partner is not around. Yes, you are right, Jessica admitted. It was all too easy for me, and I have not really thought about what I did. I never considered what it meant for us. What was I thinking? Where was my concern for you, for us? If you want to separate, Daniel, I will not fight it. I will do as you suggest. We will keep Tommy and remain a family. I have been thinking this over. You may not agree, but Tommy should be our top priority. The house is too large for one of us, and we are both busy with work. Let us sell the house. We can buy smaller places near our jobs and each other. That way, Tommy can stay in his school with the same babysitter and daycare. We can share custody of him, a month with me, then a month with you. We will spend holidays like Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween, and birthdays together, so he does not feel neglected. We will be civil to each other when we are with Tommy and our families. Apart from that, we will lead our own lives. Having 2 homes means more expenses. I have decided to leave my role as a public defender and rejoin my old colleague, Paul Harris, at his law firm. Paul has been asking me to return since I left. He is overwhelmed with cases and needs my courtroom experience. But you were passionate about being a public defender, I replied. Yes, I was. I enjoyed helping those who struggled with the legal system. I also learned a great deal handling different cases in court, but I am tired of small-time cases involving drug dealers, gang members, and the like. The office is in good hands with young lawyers eager for courtroom experience. I want to take on more significant justice cases. Paul assured me that work and financial rewards would be abundant. Jessica cried the entire night. I couldn't console her, nor did I try. I wept as well. The next day, Jessica said she needed some time away and planned to visit Martha for a few days. I thought it was a good idea. Although I never liked Martha, I felt she had lured Jessica into a trap, but Jessica still considered her a friend. An hour after Jessica's plane landed in Atlanta, I sent her a text. She was likely with Martha by then. In the message, I told her that I not only had photos from the resort, but also a video of her dancing by the fire with Andrew and Tom. I sent the video along as well, advising her to pay attention to what Martha did. The video showed Jessica, Andrew, Tom, and Mary dancing wildly around the fire, trying to outdo each other. You could see our classmates watching. Some turned away from the provocative moves. As Jessica and Andrew danced, Martha approached Jessica, handed her a drink, and whispered something in her ear before stepping back. Jessica drank quickly, then tossed the glass into the fire. After that, she danced with even more abandon, eventually removing her light green shawl and throwing it into the air. The video captured the shawl flying towards where I was filming before it ended. Not long after, Jessica called. She was coming back on the next flight. I picked her up from the airport. She was silent initially as we drove home, but then she said, "I think I was set up. I am not sure why, but I know it does not excuse my actions. I made things worse. I chose to do what I did. I drank excessively, smoked marijuana, became friends with Andrew for the weekend, and things went too far. I believed they were my friends, but they weren't. I still do not understand why." "Neither do I," I replied. We did not speak much after that until we got home. We agreed to separate. Even before making it official, Jessica and I hired a lawyer to fairly divide our assets. We split our finances and began managing our lives independently. At the same time, we found new homes close to our workplaces and near each other. Our old house sold for much more than we had paid for it, and we split the proceeds. I used some of the money as a down payment on a new 3-bedroom townhouse and kept the rest available while I planned for the future. My new job paid well, allowing me to save significantly. As it turned out, I would need those savings. Jessica bought a 3-bedroom condo not far from my new place. When discussing how to share custody of Tommy, we decided to make his rooms in both homes resemble his old room. We thought this would help him feel more comfortable moving between the two places each month. The first month was challenging as we settled into our new homes while I adjusted to my new job as a criminal lawyer at Harris & Martin, attorneys at law. Paul assigned me numerous cases and made me a full partner in the firm. Initially, I kept Tommy with me while Jessica moved into her condo. Jessica kindly agreed to look after Tommy for an additional month while I moved into the townhouse I had purchased. I did not want to hear about the night she cheated. I doubted there could be a good reason for her actions. It still hurt, but she kept asking me to hear her side. On the day we signed the divorce papers, she said she would only sign if I gave her 30 minutes to explain herself. I was reluctant to listen, convinced there could be no justification for her behavior. But after signing, we sat alone in a conference room, away from the lawyers. She began with another apology, acknowledging she had deeply hurt me and that I was still in pain. She felt remorse for ending our marriage, but understood that my pride had been wounded so severely that I could not move on. She knew the betrayal had made me lose respect for myself, even though I was not at fault. She struggled to hold back tears, nearly breaking down. I told her I had agreed to listen to her story, not to hear more apologies for the collapse of our marriage. Taking a deep breath, she began. The weekend away was a chance to have some time for myself. It was the first time in 6 months that I was truly alone. No work, no you, no Tommy, just me. On the flight to Los Angeles, I decided I was going to enjoy myself. I wanted to hang out with my single friends and party like we used to at the end of law school semesters. Being alone in Los Angeles was liberating. The place was beautiful, the warm breeze, rum cocktails, lively salsa music. Daniel, everyone was there, and it was exhilarating. It felt like I was back in school, before we were a couple, before Tommy. I felt free again, with no one to take care of but myself. I have always given you freedom, Jessica. If you ever needed space, I gave it to you, I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. I know, Daniel, it is not about you. It is just how things were. I wanted to express that. But Daniel, we both wanted to get married. We both wanted a child. Yes, Daniel, I did want those things. I love you. This is so difficult, she continued. I had hoped to reconnect with my single friends from law school, but there weren't many of them there. Most were married, and the single ones did not attend. However, Martha was there. She teamed up with me, assuring me we would have a great time. She told Andrew I was there alone, and he offered to look out for us. She was close with the Johnsons at the reunion's cocktail hour on Friday. We met Andrew, Tom, and his wife, Marie. They proposed using their yacht instead of the tourist boat the next day for a barbecue on a nearby island. The yacht sounded more exclusive and less crowded. I was hesitant about Andrew at first and mentioned I might stick with other friends, but Andrew suggested bringing them along. Martha loved the idea, so I agreed on the condition that Steve and Natalie join us. I found Natalie later, and she was on board with the plan, so we decided to go on the Johnson yacht. The yacht seemed like a better choice than the crowded tourist boat. Although I missed mingling with my law school friends, being on the yacht was impressive. We enjoyed a fantastic lunch and plenty of drinks. I shouldn't have started drinking so heavily so early. Then Andrew brought out some marijuana, and we all tried it. I felt relaxed and liberated. As you might suspect, or as you saw, I just went with the flow, not realizing I was being manipulated by those who pretended to be my friends. I continued drinking and smoking more, which dulled my sense of responsibility. I found myself dancing wildly with Andrew near a bonfire. I let it happen. The next morning, I woke up alone with a pounding headache. The room reeked. I felt sore and began to realize what I had done to you, to us. I cried uncontrollably. I got sick, retching with nothing left in my stomach. Around 10 in the morning, I called for fresh sheets and threw the old ones into the hallway. I took a long shower, desperate to cleanse myself. But no matter how much I scrubbed, I felt dirty. When the new sheets arrived, I changed the bed and curled up with a pillow, unable to sleep, consumed by shame and guilt. I just kept crying. Around 1 in the afternoon, Natalie came looking for me, having noticed my absence from the festivities. At first, I refused to open the door, but she knew something was wrong, and I eventually let her in. She hugged me as I sobbed. I confessed everything. How can I ever face Daniel? This will destroy him, I wept. Natalie took control. This never happened, Jessica, she said. I want you to start forgetting it right now. It was nothing. I cannot deceive Daniel, I insisted. Natalie reassured me. Trust me, Jessica. Forget it ever happened. It is as if it was not real. You have no reason to feel ashamed or guilty. Daniel will never find out. Natalie laid out her plan, emphasizing that we had nothing to hide or lie about. She got us coffee and food, and I started to feel a little better. She insisted I act normal for the rest of the weekend, which meant attending the big dinner and dance that night, the final event of our reunion. I told her I couldn't face my old friends and dreaded running into Andrew. Listen, Jessica, last night did not happen. You are going to be your cheerful, sociable self. Only you and Andrew know, and Andrew would not want Daniel to find out what happened later. Natalie took me to the reunion gathering spot at the hotel to socialize with some classmates. People asked where we had been that morning. Natalie said we were out shopping. After a while, everyone began heading to their rooms to prepare for the dinner. I followed Natalie's advice, compartmentalizing the events of the previous night, and just spent time with friends. A few of them mentioned the dance Andrew and I shared the night before, but no one assumed it was more than just a dance. Natalie picked me up, and I joined her and Steve for drinks before the dinner. Natalie acted as a protective shield, staying close. I started to enjoy myself, mainly because I had pushed the events of the previous night out of my mind. It was as if they had never happened. I sat with Natalie and Steve at dinner. I saw Andrew and Tom seated at a different table with Marie, John, and Martha. Andrew kept glancing over, but I avoided eye contact. I was terrified he might approach or ask me to dance. Later, I confided in Natalie that I would panic if he spoke to me or touched me. Natalie assured me I had nothing to worry about. She had warned Andrew to stay away from me or face consequences. I spent the evening trying to enjoy myself with my classmates. I limited myself to 1 glass of wine and danced only once with Steve. Natalie and Steve ensured I returned to my room safely that night. The next morning, I accompanied them in the hotel van to the airport and caught my flight home. I pushed the whole experience so far out of my mind that I didn't even feel the guilt I thought I should have. I wanted everything to appear as normal as possible, not wanting to raise any doubts in you by showing too much remorse. I convinced myself I did not feel guilty. Jessica stopped talking. That is what happened. I will never forgive myself for what I did. I do not expect you to either. I do not expect forgiveness from you. Just know I am deeply sorry for causing you so much pain and that I will always love you. With that, Jessica stood up and walked out. I waited until the divorce was finalized. When it was done, it felt like any other day. I was officially single again. I threw myself into my work. Paul was right. My background as a public defender was invaluable to our firm. Understanding the court system and the district attorney's office was a huge advantage. We shifted our focus from negotiating settlements to taking cases to trial, and we began winning more often. Gradually, our firm's reputation grew as we took on more prominent cases and high-profile clients. After work, my favorite spot was a laid-back bar where Paul and I often went to unwind or bring clients for a casual meeting, away from the formal atmosphere of our office. This time, it was only 2 p.m., and the bar was nearly empty. I chose a quiet booth and ordered a strong, spiced rum. My mind started to drift. I wouldn't have thought much of it if not for an email I received the previous night from Martha. "Hey, Daniel, I heard you are single now. Sorry to hear that, but it means you are free to meet new people. I am one of those new people. We went out once, just once, before you started dating my roommate, Jessica. I was quite the catch back then. Truly, I was something special. You were all I could think about. It hurt a lot seeing you with Jessica. I always felt she wasn't right for you. You never saw her flaws. She had a mean streak. I knew marrying her was a mistake, and I wanted to show you. At the reunion, I made sure to set things in motion. Even though Jessica hadn't been close to Andrew since their breakup in law school, I knew she did not dislike him the way you did. It wasn't difficult to get Andrew, Tom, Jessica, and me to hang out for the weekend. With a little push, I was confident she would mess up. Andrew, with his usual charm, still had feelings for her and wasn't thrilled that you were with Jessica. I am sorry about how things ended, but I wanted you to know I am here now. Why not visit me? I will do my best to help you forget her. I might not be as beautiful as Jessica, but I could love you far more." Oh, Martha, I thought. She must have been tipsy when she wrote that message. She would never have confessed to tricking Jessica if she had been in her right mind. I forwarded the email to Jessica without adding any words. The message was clear. There was no doubt. Jessica had been duped by her close friend Martha, and in a way, so had I. But that did not absolve Jessica. Marriage should withstand challenges, and partners should avoid compromising situations. Ever since that whole debacle with my wife and the Johnson brothers, I had felt a mix of shame and anger. Initially, all my rage was directed at Jessica, believing she was solely to blame. But my fury began to subside once I decided to end our marriage. However, it never fully disappeared. My busy life as a trial lawyer helped keep my mind off it, but the resentment simmered below the surface. Even after we separated and the divorce proceedings began, the bitterness lingered. I wanted payback. No, it was more than that. I sought revenge. One of our clients, Richard Lawson, was a prominent figure in real estate, particularly with retail properties. He was caught in a scandal involving arson. He claimed he set the fires to clear out buildings on the dock for new luxury apartments. The fires targeted insured storage facilities. The insurance coverage was reasonable, but not substantial. The reality was that the authorities had little to implicate him. No accelerants, no incendiary devices, no timers, nothing tangible. However, everyone knew Lawson wanted those buildings gone, and there was the matter of the insurance claim, albeit a modest one. Richard Lawson was miles away when the fire broke out, attending a meeting in Boston with well-known business associates. My instincts told me he was involved, but given the scant evidence, I was confident I could exonerate him, possibly even get the case dismissed. I needed to dig deeper. I contacted a friend at the Smith Investigative Agency, the detectives we frequently relied on for gathering information on complex cases. I briefed him on the situation. I was convinced Lawson had hired an expert arsonist to set the fire. Lawson was involved in numerous ventures: real estate, retail, a construction firm, several office spaces, and other business dealings. The Smith detectives investigated all of these areas. They scrutinized every employee under Lawson's umbrella, around 70 individuals, but found nothing suspicious. This is why Paul and I trusted them. They were thorough. They even reviewed job applications from candidates Lawson had rejected. And then they discovered something. A man named Peter Williams caught their attention. A retired firefighter, Williams had applied for a part-time position as a night watchman. When the detective asked if I wanted to know more about Williams, I was all ears. In short order, they gave me a comprehensive report on Peter Williams. Chief Williams had retired from the fire service over 7 years ago. Unfortunately, his wife had fallen ill with a rare condition about 5 years ago, which made it difficult for her to leave the house. To make matters worse, they were overwhelmed by medical expenses, to the extent that Williams's sister-in-law had moved in from Florida to help out. Despite his decent pension, the bills were too much to handle, prompting him to seek a night watchman job at Lawson's facility. Officially, he was not hired. Another curious detail, he was paying his bills through money orders, using cash, not the kind you would deposit in a bank. Reviewing Williams's job application made me uneasy, though I wasn't sure why. His work history was stellar, full of commendations. He had risen from a young firefighter in his 20s to the chief of a major city's fire department. He also had experience in fire prevention and arson investigation. I felt like I was holding the biography of the man who might have set the fire for Lawson. Rather than adding this new information to our case files, I decided to keep it to myself. In fact, I hid the file and slipped Chief Williams's job application into my jacket as I left the office. I informed my assistant that I would be out for the rest of the day. I drove to Williams's home. It was a single-story, modest house in a nice neighborhood. From what I had gathered, Williams and his wife had lived there for over 25 years. Before approaching the door, I took off my jacket, loosened my tie, and left my briefcase in the car. A woman answered after I rang the bell. I explained that I needed to speak with Chief Williams about a personal matter. I assumed she was the sister-in-law. She did not invite me in, but asked me to wait while she closed the door. A few minutes later, Chief Williams appeared. He was tall and slender, with deep lines etched into his face and thinning hair. Despite his casual attire, simple slacks and a shirt, he had an air of authority. I introduced myself and handed him my business card. He glanced at it and then asked why I had come. I am an attorney representing Richard Lawson. I am assisting him with an arson case. And why come to me? He questioned. Feeling awkward standing at his doorstep, I suggested we take a walk. The chief nodded toward a nearby park where he enjoyed strolling. You are familiar with Mr. Lawson, right, Chief Williams? The chief took his time responding. In fact, he did not directly answer any of my questions. It became clear that I needed to be very straightforward with him. As we reached the park entrance, I stopped and showed him I was not wearing a wire. Chief, look, I am not recording this conversation. What we discuss stays between us. The chief continued walking and asked once more what I wanted. Chief Williams, I began, I believe you set the fire at Lawson's dockside warehouses. I cannot prove it now, but if I hand over what I have to the police, they might be able to piece together the truth." The chief showed no reaction. For the last time, "Mr. Miller, what do you want? Are you trying to blackmail me? Go ahead, try it." I got to the point. "I want you to set a boat on fire and sink it for me." Chief Williams looked genuinely shocked. "Why would I do that for you? Mr. Miller, you think you can coerce me into this?" "No," I replied. "I want to pay you. I will offer you $50,000 for the job. It is a large boat at a small marina outside Los Angeles." "And why do you want the boat destroyed, Mr. Miller?" "I will tell you why. Chief, I want you to know I am serious. Curious after. You have 3 options: refuse and report me to the police, forget this conversation ever happened, or agree to the job. Here is what I will do. Mr. Miller," he said, "I have a trip to Los Angeles to check on my sister-in-law's property. Give me more details about the boat you are targeting, and I will look into it. I will be back in a week. Meet me here in the park. I walk this route every day at 2. Do not call, text, or send any electronic messages, and do not write anything down. I will be back next Wednesday." I provided the chief with information about the seduction, the yacht owned by Andrew, Tom, and their family. I described its location. He did not take any notes. Once he had the information, he walked away. I waited a few moments before returning to my car and driving home. The following week was difficult. My mind kept drifting, but somehow my partner and I managed to build a solid defense for our client, Mr. Lawson. It seemed the police had no conclusive evidence that the warehouse fire was intentional, even though Mr. Lawson benefited from it. On Wednesday, I returned to the park, sitting at a table near Chief Williams's house. Right at 2 p.m., he appeared and took a seat on a bench not far from me. "I can do what you are asking," Chief Williams stated matter-of-factly, "but I need more specifics. I want the boat burned and sunk on June 17th, right in front of the resort, a little down from the marina," I explained. "You realize we have to do this in the dead of night, correct?" he noted. "Yes, that is the plan." He continued, "You understand this will not look like an accident. It will be obvious it was deliberate." "That is precisely what I want," I replied. "If it is clear it was intentional, insurance might not cover it." Without further discussion, the chief outlined his conditions. "I want half of the $50,000 up front, plus $10,000 for expenses, in cash. Use 20s and 50s. See you next week, Chief. Same time." I agreed. Before departing, he said, "Next time, meet me on the far side of the park, near the picnic area." Then he headed back towards his home. I spent the next week gathering the cash. I couldn't just withdraw $35,000 from my savings without raising suspicion, in case anyone ever investigated. Instead, I withdrew small amounts gradually, making it seem like I was gambling. I frequently visited horse races, placing bets ranging from $100 to $200. Surprisingly, I won occasionally, though I mostly lost. I kept all my tickets, including the losing ones. I also collected discarded tickets from the ground. Over several months, I accumulated tickets worth over $50,000. This served as my cover, demonstrating significant gambling losses. The following Wednesday, I was back at the park. The chief and I exchanged few words. I simply handed him a shopping bag filled with cash and walked away. We arranged to meet one last time in the park the Wednesday after the job was completed to give him the remaining payment. As the next class reunion approached, I received an invitation via email. I used to enjoy these gatherings, but this time I hesitated. I wanted to attend, but I also did not want to face everyone there. Too many knew about the scandal with Jessica, and everyone knew we had divorced because of it. At a school event for Tommy, which both Jessica and I attended, I told her I was not planning to go. She wasn't surprised and said she had no intention of attending either. When we both confirmed we were not attending, Steve reached out, urging us to reconsider. I made it clear to him that neither of us wanted to be there. He and Natalie seemed disappointed. On the night of the reunion, I had a date lined up. I needed the distraction and wanted to ensure there was no confusion about my whereabouts that evening. I had been on dates before, mostly when it was Jessica's turn to look after Tommy. This time, I asked her to watch him for the night. After getting ready, I dropped Tommy off at Jessica's place. She noticed I was dressed up and asked if I had a date. I admitted I occasionally went out, but nothing serious. She seemed slightly hurt, knowing I was out with another woman, likely having a good time, but she straightened my tie and said I looked nice. I asked if she was seeing anyone. She said she wasn't ready to date again. I felt a mix of relief and guilt, relief that she was not with someone else, but guilt because I was moving on. I acted nonchalantly, grateful for the planned date to keep my mind off the reunion. We had a wonderful time, drinks, dinner, dancing, and then back to her place for the night. We were both so exhausted by the end that we just fell asleep. At 2 a.m., my phone started ringing. It took about 10 rings before I answered. "Who is calling at this hour?" I grumbled, picking up. "Daniel, you won't believe this." Steve sounded overly excited. I remembered my plans for the night and quickly became fully awake. Still, I tried to sound sleepy and uninterested. "Can we discuss this in the morning?" I said. I was dead asleep. "No, you need to see this right now," Steve insisted. "The Johnson boat is. It is on fire in the waterway. It is lighting up the whole area. I am sending you some pictures and a video." Steve hung up, and moments later, I received a video on my phone. It was intense. A yacht was engulfed in flames from bow to stern, fire consuming everything. Steve was on the shore at some resort, surrounded by others. They were all watching the blaze, gasping in awe. Some were dressed in shorts, others in robes, drawn out of their rooms by the commotion and the fire. The video lasted a minute. My date woke up and watched with me, unable to look away. After watching it several times, she pulled me back to bed. And, well, let's just say I was thoroughly distracted again. I slept soundly after that. My date might believe it was her company that soothed me, but knowing Andrew and Tom's luxurious yacht was now ashes helped me sleep like a baby. The next morning, she prepared breakfast. We said our goodbyes, hoping to meet again soon. I returned home by 11 a.m. Just then, my phone rang. It was Jessica, as I had anticipated. "Daniel, did you see the news?" she asked. I told her Steve had already sent me a video. "Natalie called me last night," Jessica said. "She forwarded some photos. I thought about calling you, but I guessed you might not be alone, so I did not." "Who could have done such a thing?" she wondered. "I have no idea," I replied, "but the Johnson brothers are not exactly beloved. Not by me, at least." This incident quickly made headlines. By Sunday, it was all over the news channels. About an hour after the fire started, the harbor patrol arrived in a speedboat. They could only observe, but took several close-up videos of the fire. An hour later, the first fireboat arrived. As the fireboat sprayed powerful jets of water, 2 massive explosions occurred underwater, just seconds apart. The first blast lifted the bow of the yacht about 4 feet, and the second did the same to the stern. The fireboat had to retreat to a safe distance. The yacht settled back, but was clearly sinking fast. Within 5 minutes, water reached the deck, and within 10 minutes, the entire vessel was submerged. The fire continued to burn on the water's surface for another half hour before finally dying out. Smaller boats remained on site for hours to ensure the flames were completely extinguished. By the next morning, oil booms were deployed to contain the remaining fuel. By then, at least 4 television news crews were at the resort, trying to get the latest scoop on the boat fire. The incident dominated the news for the next few days. Everyone I knew heard about it. The story gained traction when reporters discovered the yacht belonged to Andrew and Tom. Jessica called again on Tuesday night, her voice filled with worry. "Daniel, what if they suspect you had something to do with this?" "I do not see how they could," I reassured her. "It is just a bizarre coincidence." I returned to the park as planned the following day. The chief approached, maintaining a casual demeanor. He did not sit too close, appearing as if he was waiting for someone. I walked over to him. "Well done," I said. "I assume you are ready for the final payment." "Do not be so smug. Mr. Miller, you requested a job, and I fulfilled it," he replied without making eye contact. He inquired about the remaining cash. I handed him an envelope. "Thank you," he said. "Do not contact me again unless you have another job in mind." With that, he walked away. Later, when Jessica and I spoke again, she hinted that she suspected I might have been involved, but she had no proof. A while later, I met Steve at a bar. I half expected to see Andrew or Tom, but they never showed. We chatted for a while before Steve grew serious. "Jessica told me you were dating," he said. "I wanted to see for myself." I did not hide it. "Yes, I am seeing someone." "And how is it?" he asked. "Better than I expected," I answered. "I miss Jessica, but I cannot live with her anymore." Steve nodded. "You know, it feels strange not seeing you two together. You seemed like the perfect couple." "Not as perfect as you thought," I said. "We had our share of problems." "But you hid them well," he observed. "I suppose we all do." Steve's words stayed with me. I knew I had moved on, but a part of me still held on to the life I had with Jessica. Things were different now, but I was slowly finding my way forward. Thank you for tuning in to hear this gripping tale of betrayal and revenge. What would you have done if you were in Daniel's shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more dramatic stories. Until next time, take care.
Thanks for hanging out with me on today's episode, brother. I'm Jack, host of this podcast, and it's great having you here. If today's story hit home, send it on to a buddy who might need it. Remember, we're all in this together, turning life's curvy balls into wins. If you have an opinion or story to share, then drop a line in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out. Until next time, keep your chin up and keep pushing forward. Stay strong, folks.